What's up, guys? Welcome back to It Can't Be For Nothing, our Last of Us HBO show review. My name is Kyle. Thanks for checking out Project Potter. Guys, go check out the other content, but we got our Last of Us 2 sweatshirt here. If I were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. And guys, the big episode was last week, episode 2. Go check that out. I'm not going to spoil anything, but once we do begin the review of this episode, we will be going into full spoilers. So what I'm going to do is give my thoughts on the episode. I'm going to put in the comparisons between the shows from the scene that match up with the shows from the game of my playthrough, and we'll give it a score out of 10. So, guys, appreciate you. Let's go. Season 2, Episode 3, guys. This is a really good episode still, but it slows everything down a little bit. And the show also takes more time and maybe is a little bit different than the game because it's giving us more of Jackson and Jackson as a whole, and it makes a change to a character, I think, for the better. So we'll get into that, guys. But the big episode last week, spoilers, last warning, spoilers for Episode 2, guys. You've been warned. So Joel's death last week, right? There's the follow-up from that. Now in the game, guys, we go Joel's death right into, I think it's like a black scene, but there's no inclination that any time has passed. Immediately mourning Joel's death. There's a great scene with Ellie, and then she goes to Joel's house, and it's beautiful, and then she takes off, and turns out Tommy has gone in front of her, and then Dina and Ellie are like, we gotta stop Tommy. Maria gets involved. Tommy left a note. But they're like off to the races, right? It's fresh, their emotions are fresh, and that's kind of what fuels her rage, where she's like, dude, Abby needs to pay, let's go, we gotta track them down. And I think they're trying to get to them before they even get back to like their home base. In this show, though, I let 3 months pass by. And when we started this, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And they're not quite hitting season 2 Ellie. And look, guys, myself and everyone watching this who's played the game, it's never going to be as good as the game, right? I think they're doing a really good job adapting it. I think it's a really solid show. So far, it's not really hitting the highs of season 1 for me, but they brought the guitar riff back a lot in here, and it really felt like Last of Us again, but it's never going to be as good as the first time that we all played Last of Us 2 if you love The Last of Us 2. It's never going to hit like that. It's never going to be as handcrafted. You're also not on a controller for 30 hours or whatever, so you're not controlling these things. So you're not going to have as much of an emotional connection to the show. People are upset about Bella. No, guys, I will say the scene where she's talking to Gail, is it Gail? Who's the woman from Schitt's Creek? That Ellie, way too like loose and like kind of like sassy for me. The Ellie that we play in the game is so hurt and so broken. And again, this is 3 months after these things happened. In the game, it's right away. And so Ellie is broken and she's angry and she's hateful. 3 month jump. Ellie, the acting for Bella, I think Bella's a tremendous actress. The line delivery for her in that scene with Gail, I thought was like awful. I was like, oh, like it was the first time where I was like, oh, I don't know about this, but she gets better and better. You know, it's all about her hair too. She still looks really young for Last of Us 2 Ellie. I know that's everyone's complaint. I know everyone says that Caitlin Dever looks more like Last of Us 2 Ellie, and she should have been Ellie instead. But you know what, guys? They made their choice. I trust Bella to deliver, but that was the first scene when she's talking to Gail, where she's like, "Yeah, I'm sad and I missed him. What do you want me to say?" And I was like, "Oh, dude, that's not the tone I wanted at all for the big moment after Joel's death." But again, time has passed. But then she kind of gets angrier and angrier in their training, and everyone's getting yoked. She's getting yoked with Jesse, but it's different. And it's like, I don't want a one-to-one copy, right? And that's what people need to understand is that it's like I said, it's never going to be as good as the game, and it's not going to be a one-to-one because what's the point? They're adapting it, they're making some choices. I prefer the game version, but you have to understand, guys, enjoy this for what it is. It's a super high quality show. It's going to give you some great performances, high production, and there's going to be some interesting choices. I mean, we see the scars in this episode, dude. We don't see the scars until way later in the game. Ellie runs into them in the forest in an awesome scene where the arrow hits her, scares the shit out of you in the game. And that's when you have to do R1 first time to take it out. The scars are amazing. The whistling is amazing. The scars talking a little bit here. I mean, they talked in the game a little bit, but they were mostly like kind of this primitive, like creepy cultist like group. They gave them a little too much heart here, but then they're all slaughtered by the end of the episode, and it's like, who did this? And we run it's the WLFs, and they're rolling deep, dude. WLF is rolling deep. But guys, a couple of scenes from the game and the show that matched up to me. Obviously, at Ellie going to see Joel's grave. I think was done pretty well. I didn't realize she puts, I think, coffee beans because Joel loves coffee. I feel like we didn't really touch on that enough in the show. In the game, it's like kind of a couple of throwaway lines. Like you go and explore something, and there's a coffee machine in the first game, and Ellie's like, I think it's in Pittsburgh, and Ellie's like, "Oh, did you ever do this?" And he's like, "I love coffee." And I feel like they didn't really harp on that in the show, but it's really sweet because I think she leaves coffee beans at his grave, and I think she does that in the game too. And I never noticed that before. And I was like, oh, that's really, really sweet. But again, the Ellie in the game is broken at the grave. The players are broken because they just witnessed Joel's death like moments before in the game, and this is 3 months later. So it's still powerful. It's still well done, but it doesn't hit quite as hard for me, and that's where I felt like the comparisons were almost there. This is really the only one-to-one. The house scene is pretty good where she goes and sees Joel's house. They show his mailbox, they show the flowers. That's pretty much one for one. But even in the game footage, guys, when Ellie goes in there, like her hand is shaking because she's so messed up still from presumably like the night before. And we do get the scene of Ellie screaming like in the hospital right away, and so she's like already got PTSD. And that was nice, but then because of the time skip, it's just not as powerful, right? She's not as angry, she's not as rage driven. And so maybe that's going to be a difference in the show, or maybe they're going to lean a different way, or maybe there'll be a different choice. I mean, guys, we don't know. It could end differently than The Last of Us 2 game did. So they obviously have a story and an idea, and we're separating this into 2 seasons. So they're going to really like milk this thing out and see. So I'm excited to see the differences. But the house thing, she goes in there, she gets the watch, or she looks at the watch from his box, and then she gets the revolver. That was pretty much one to one. And then the coat scene got me, dude. When she snitched the coat, it was so sad in the game, and it was Bella. Bella redeemed herself here because she's like breaking down crying and she's holding it. She really got into her bag for that one. I was like, oh, it's such a powerful scene, dude. Like she misses so much. The line in the beginning where she said, I was close to him and I miss him. What do you want? Like it was too sarcastic for me. Like I wish they didn't put that line in there because I just show me through emotion, right? I don't need her to be like, I love Joel. And it was just a weird way to start the episode. So I didn't like that scene. I did like the coach scene, the house scene. Now, in the difference in the game, guys, Ellie comes down and Maria's there, and that's when she reads the note to Tommy, and she tells them that Tommy's already left. I think Tommy is staying in Jackson for the show, at least so far. We don't know that he's left, and it's just Ellie and Dina. Another big difference is, guys, we get the town hall meeting, and they actually vote. Ellie is like, "Yo, I want 16 people," and I think Tommy's plan too. And they're gonna vote on it, and they're like, "We can't send 16 people. We're gonna leave Jackson. The Raiders are gonna come back. What's gonna go on?" But I love how they have a meeting about this. It's really strong, and the whole town is in it. And they're like, "Look, we all love Joel, but we lost a lot of people that day. Like, you weren't the only one to lose people." And it's true. And she's like, "We can't do this for revenge." One guy is like, look, we need to give mercy. And then Seth, of all people, stands up and he's like, you know what, dude? You guys are all victims. He's like, they came in, they took one of our own, and they killed them. And it's like, is Seth feeling a little guilty, because of the Dyke comment? Do you think he's feeling a little guilty because Joel got mad at him and then Joel got murdered? So think about it, guys. Seth never had closure with Joel either. Now, we don't know if they were friends or what happened, but the whole thing happened. Joel pushes Seth, right? Messes him up. Then Joel gets murdered. So not only is Seth probably feeling bad about his comment to Dina and Ellie, but he never got closure with Joel. So Seth kind of has these weights on his shoulder. But I was so happy that Seth stood up and he's like, "No, you guys are playing victim." He's like, "They don't care about us." He's like, "We need to get revenge." And Seth helps them out by getting them the horse, and he's like, hey, gives him the scope. He's like, trade, it's better. And I'm like, there we go, because Seth is like not redeemable in the game at all. He's just like a homophobe, and he's just like a bad person. So I love that the show was like, you know what, man, Seth was kind of a garbage person, but think about the weight that he's carrying, and also he's trying to do better, right? He's like, you know what, man, they voted for you guys not to go. It was like 8-3 the vote, so Ellie like can't go out basically. But instead of Maria coming in there and be like, go after Tommy, Seth is like, I'll help you out. He sneaks him out on the horse, and they're off. And I thought that was a nice touch to the show. So some things I think the show is doing better. Some things I think the show is not doing as well. They didn't touch on the cordyceps roots at all. So it's like, did they just solve that? They're rebuilding the houses and stuff, and I'm like, damn, dude, they had a lot of cleanup. There was the opening shot of all the dead clickers and everything, and how the fence was burning and everything was in ashes. And they did mention like, look, we couldn't have gone to the WLF because nobody wanted to go out there. There were people and funerals that had to be had, and we saw at Joel's gravesite, which Tommy buries all of them like 10 miles south of the camp, I think he says, which is smart because you don't want to bury them in the town, I guess, because you don't want people to like discover it or something. I don't know. I guess it's an idea that like that was a campsite or something, or maybe it's just you don't want the reminder, but then if people want to visit the gravestones, they have to go 10 miles out. I don't know. It's an interesting choice, but it was really just that, guys. The gravestone and the house were really the only two that matched up. And like I said, we saw the scars. They all get murked. WLF is a force. It ends with them rolling deep. It's a solid episode, but I think a step down from the previous week. So, guys, the score for this one, it's going to be an 8-1. I think it's a solid episode. Look, it's HBO. It's Neil Druckmann. It's The Last of Us. It's not going to be bad. There's not going to be a bad episode of The Last of Us. There's just things that, again, myself and other people who love the game, you have to just get used to. Bella's not going to look exactly like Last of Us 2 Ellie. I think she's going to bring the emotion. There's certain scenes in my head that I'm like the red light scene, guys. That's all I'm going to say. That is such an intense scene in the game. I'm wondering how Bella's going to bring it with that. I think she is. They do her hair a little bit like Last of Us 2 Ellie towards the end, where it's like kind of like those, not the dual pigtails, but like it's kind of back like that. I think not only is she, it's I don't know if they filmed later, but Bella actually did seem a little bit bigger, and they got the shirt, and she looked a lot more like Last of Us 2 Ellie towards the end of the episode. I'm like, all right, but again, it's not going to be 1-to-1. You have to just accept that it's going to be super high quality, super high adaptation. But this episode, I think, was really interesting. I love how we got to see more of Jackson and the town hall, and there's a really great speech where Ellie's mad, and Jesse's like, write down your feelings because people don't want to vote for angry. And she says, like, look, don't just do it for Joel. She's like, do it for us. And I was like, hell yeah, dude. Like, it was like a nice community thing. Like, do it for Jackson. And I was like getting kind of emotional. And that stuff is really nice. And then other things I think were just, I don't know what they're going to do against WLF because it seems like they're an even bigger force. Now, they're a huge group in the game, but right now it's just Ellie and Dina. And Tommy going forward is such a huge part of that. So I wonder if he is coming after them later or what. Like, I'm already curious to see what they're going to do there because that's such a huge part. Tommy goes out and they got to go after Tommy, and Maria's like, you got to bring him back home. And I think Tommy's staying in Jackson. So we'll see how that goes, guys. But it's a solid episode. It just wasn't my favorite one, but still a solid hour of TV nonetheless. All right, guys. Well, that is it for another episode of It Can't Be For Nothing. Third episode of season 2 in the books. I'd say I'm not going to call it a filler episode. I think it's a quieter episode, but it's still important, and it's dealing with kind of the emotional impact. And I love how they're talking about like the Raiders are going to come. I think Seth says like, look, they're going to come back and they're going to be laughing because like you guys didn't do anything. But we kind of see we'll see, guys, that like the WLF and the Scars, that's a bigger war going on. And so Abby was obsessed with Joel, but the WLF doesn't necessarily have qualms with Jackson. And we'll see kind of how that unfolds. I don't want to spoil anything, guys, but appreciate you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Go check out the other content. Until next time, guys. All right, P. Joel.